Hi all, this is Kareem. I'm one of the product managers at Amazon Quicksite and I focus on embedded analytics. Today, I will walk you through what is embedded analytics in Quicksite, how to do it, and then my partner Arun Santosh, who is solutions architect, will walk you through a quick demo. So let me take you through my slides here. So here is a quick agenda. What we are going to do is we are going to talk about why you should use QuickSight, what is embedded analytics, what are some of the benefits that you get with using embedded analytics in QuickSight, and then we will jump into how-tos. We will talk about how to embed and how you can set up multi-tenancy using namespaces and how you can secure your data using row-level security. And then Arun will do a quick demo and we will wrap up this presentation with that. So here is the first thing, why QuickSight? So as you might be aware, Amazon QuickSight is a visualization service. And the reason why we recommend QuickSight is because it is BI at scale. What this means is that regardless of how many users are going to access your Amazon QuickSight dashboards, be it tens or thousands or hundred thousands, it doesn't matter. You don't have to worry about scaling. We take care of the scaling needs for you. And with embedded analytics, we have a bunch of APIs which you can use to quickly embed dashboards into your applications and also customize the look and feel of this to make sure that this is flowing very well with your applications for your users. We also have machine learning insights where you you get features such as anomaly detection, forecasting, auto narratives, and just brings the cool insights parts directly to your customer without any work to be done on your side. And of course, this is enterprise ready. What that means is that it is highly available, secure. You can use row level security to secure your data. You have access control based on different types of identity. And we have a plethora of different data types that you can connect to. Now, let's move into what is embedded analytics. In a nutshell, embedded analytics is embedding QuickSight dashboards into your application. There are three major use cases why someone would want to do that. There is an ISV use case, enterprise use case, and let's say you're a public site. So in an ISV use case, say that you're providing a SaaS solution to your customer and you want to provide analytics to those customers. You can quickly embed QuickSight dashboards and whoever is accessing your application, you can make sure that they are able to access the dashboards. And you can also secure data based on who is accessing the application. You can do the same thing if you're an enterprise customer, where if you want to embed data insights using Amazon QuickSight dashboards into your internal applications or portals such as wikis, so that they are available for your employees to access, you can do that using our embedded analytics suite. These dashboards will be protected based on your auth, and also only users who are authenticated will be able to access these dashboards. On the other extreme, let's say that you're a public site such as a school district, university, a public health website, or a public works website, and you want to open up data for anyone in the internet to be able to access your dashboards. You can do that using Amazon QuickSight's Embedded Analytics Suite too. You can embed a dashboard and open it up for public, and anyone who can access your website will be able to access these dashboards. So here are three quick use cases where you can use embedded analytics. Now let me walk you through some of the benefits of using Amazon QuickSight's Embedded Analytics. So first and the foremost is QuickSight is a managed solution and it is serverless and versionless. What that means is that you don't have to worry about infrastructure, you don't have to worry about updates, keeping up with versions, doing any patches or anything. It is managed by us. So all that infrastructure is taken care by us. Second, it scales as your user base increases. If you're having a dashboard that is accessible by 5 users, and let's say that your business takes off and you have now say hundreds and thousands of users, you don't have to worry about scalability. It scales as your business scales. And also, as you're embedding this, you want to make sure that your dashboards are looking and feeling as if they are part of your application, and you can do that using themes and JavaScript SDK. I will touch a bit upon this later in my presentation. And yes, of course, you can secure your data using low-level security and column-level security. I will talk about a couple of row-level security APIs that you can use in order to secure your data. And because these are Quicksite dashboards that have Quicksite visuals, you do not need to worry about creating and managing your own visuals, updating the code, maintaining the code, or anything of that sort. These you can create these visuals directly in Quicksite, and then you can embed those dashboards. And as we saw earlier, you get deep data insights, and some of these also have the ML capabilities we talked about. With respect to pricing, you can actually pay per user, or you can pay for what you use with capacity pricing. Towards the end, I have reference links where you will be able to see a reference link for our pricing page. And one of the benefits we also have is Spice. Spice is a cache where your data is actually stored. Let's say that you have Athena or RDS as your data store. You can move your data into Spice so that it is in the cache, and hence your processing is really fast without any delays. And you can do all your calculations within Spice without directly going to Athena or RDS in this case. This is one of the benefits that you get with Quicksite. Now, let's talk about what the embedding landscape actually looks like if you are an embedding customer. So the first and the foremost thing is that you can embed interactive dashboards which scale as your user base increases. And at the same time, it is also secure based on the authentication type you're using. So the first product within the embedding suite is embedding interactive dashboards. You can also embed self-service authoring capabilities within your application using console embedding or author embedding, so that you can open up author embedding to your customers who want to author their own dashboards for their own user base. With interactive dashboard embedding and author embedding, you're giving the entire QuickSight power to your users who want to build and view dashboards within your application. And then you can also customize emails for these dashboards so that your users who have subscribed to getting emails for these interactive dashboards that have been embedded in your application, they not only get the emails, but they also get the emails with a look and feel as if they are coming from you. And these emails are also taken directly to your application if the user wants to dive deep into those dashboards, and they do not have to come to QuickSight at all. And of course, you will be able to restrict access to the data based on named user or using tags if you are using embedding that you want to do anonymously. And as we launched last year towards the end of 2020, our product queue, where you can use natural language to query your dashboards, you can also embed queue into your application. So with this entire suite, you are able to create a one-stop shop embedding experience for your customers who want to interact with dashboards, or who want to build dashboards, or who want to get dashboards via emails, and you still want to maintain security and you want to give them the power of natural language processing. All of this within your own application with your own look and feel with security. Now, what I'm going to talk to you is the APIs that are available in order for how you can embed the dashboards into your application. As we saw earlier, you can embed interactive dashboards. And for that, the API is get dashboard embed URL. This API has some required parameters and some optional parameters. The required parameters are AWS account ID, dashboard ID, and identity type. AWS account ID is your account ID. Dashboard ID is the ID that you can get from your dashboard when you're building it in Quicksite and publishing it. So it is part of the URL. It's a unique ID that defines the dashboard. And the identity type, as you can see here in the notes, there are three types of identity type: IAM, Quicksite, and anonymous. You can use IAM if you have IAM users and you want those users to access Quicksite dashboards when you have embedded it in your application. You can use Quicksite identity type if you are creating users just for accessing these dashboards. They have nothing to do with AWS or IAM. So in that case, you are just creating a username and password and making sure that your customers are able to access dashboards based on that. And anonymous is an identity type where your customers have no identity at all, and they are able to access the dashboard as long as they are able to reach your dashboard. This is more like a public use case where you want to open up dashboards for anyone who is accessing a public site. This is also an ISV use case. Let's say you have thousands of users and you don't want to provision and manage those users, but you still can embed and give them access anonymously, and you can restrict data based on who is accessing your application. I'll touch upon it in a bit. And some of the optional parameters are session lifetime, undo redo buttons, reset disable buttons. We also have state persistence enablement, where if you are a user who is accessing the dashboard on your ISV's website and you want to come back to the view you had last time, you can enable state persistence so that when you come back, your same view is available for you. And once you use this API, the output you will get is an embed URL, status, and request ID. The main part here is the embed URL, which you can take it and embed it into your iframe of your HTML. So this is how you are able to embed a dashboard that is interactive into your application. Very similar to that, we also have author embedding, where you want to embed Quicksite console so that your users can author dashboards for their users. Author embedding API is get session embed URL. Its required parameter is AWS account ID. And there are some optional parameters, but I want to touch upon one particular parameter, entry point. Entry point helps you identify where is it that you want your authors to be able to go to when they access the Quicksite console in your application. You can take them to the home page using start. You can take them to enter a list of analyses. You can take them to list of dashboards, or you can take them to their favorites. You can also pass a particular dashboard ID or analysis ID and make sure that your authors are going exactly to those pages. And again, the output values, you get to see embed URL, status, and request ID. The important criteria here is making sure that you're able to take that embed URL and add it to your iframe code, which you can embed it into your HTML. And this is how you can embed a Quicksite console into your application for your authors or BAs, business analysts, to be able to author dashboards for their users. And I want to touch a bit upon, once you have embedded it, how you can customize it to make sure that you can make the look and feel of the dashboard as if it is part of your application and it is not a third-party application. The link here will take you to the entire JS JavaScript SDK. What I've highlighted here are some of the functions, and we release functions every month as we enrich our JS SDK suite. Some functions that our customers have found to be very useful, and these are based on their feedback, I want to call out here. For example, Sheet ID. You can use Sheet ID when you are actually making sure that a particular sheet is the first sheet that is embedded on your dashboard. A particular use case here is, let's say there is a dashboard that has 4 sheets. Sheet 1 is revenue, sheet 2 is costs, sheet 3 is number of orders, and sheet 4 is delays. Let's say that you want to embed this dashboard and make sure that based on where you're embedding this dashboard, you want to show a particular sheet as the landing sheet. So if you're embedding this on your to show just the revenue page, then you want to show the revenue sheet, then you can use that ID and make sure that that is the first sheet that is rendered onto your page. Similarly, you can use initiate print, and you can use your own button to initiate print on your dashboard and have your customers print that dashboard without actually using the inbuilt buttons within the Quicksite dashboard, so that the button is the same as your application's look and feel. But you're able to initiate our print functionality using that button. We also have a bunch of callback functions. We keep enriching our callback functions for the errors so that you know that if there is a particular error, you can handle it gracefully and show a good experience to your customers. Some of those errors are if the URL has expired, or if the dashboard is not found, or if the dashboard access is restricted. You can also have a callback if the parameters are changed so that you can use those parameters to maybe filter some other part of your page, and so on. So you have a bunch of functions that you can use to make sure that the dashboard integrates seamlessly with your application, and it gives a look and feel as if this dashboard is a part of your application and not a third party application. And in an ISV use case, what I'm going to talk to you about is a way for you to have a multi-tenant approach where you have multiple customers accessing your application. And so you want to make sure that you have multi-tenant architecture enabled and you're giving access to the right customers to the right data. In order for you to enable multi-tenancy, you have to use namespaces. And the API for creating namespaces is create namespace, and you can pass your AWS account ID and the namespace that you want to create. You can have different customers. Let's say the two customers are customer one and customer two, and they have a bunch of readers and authors under them. So a namespace creates a logical separation between the users of different customers. And once you have created a namespace, you can add users to those namespaces. And once you have done that, you can update permissions on your assets, such as dashboards, to give access to those users within each namespace, example, customer one and customer two. And using our row level security for namespace, you can make sure that users under namespace one have the required access to the dataset. Similarly, users under namespace customer 2 have the required access for the dataset. What this enables is it's a single dataset, but the data is restricted based on which user is accessing this data from which namespace, so that your data is still secure. And when customers are accessing the same dashboard from the same data set, but from different namespaces, the data is rendered based on what accessibility is enabled for them. I'll show you quickly how to do that. So now I'm going to, as I was telling, that you can secure your data using row level security. We have two types of RLS that we have recently launched and will be launching soon. As you might be aware, as of now, we have row level security, which is based on user IDs. So you define a row level security where you give a user ID and you say what part of data set access do they have. What we have done is we have enabled row level security for users by namespace And we are going to enable row level security using tags if you are going to embed your dashboard anonymously. What you're seeing on the screen is the first one, where we are doing row level security using namespaces. A quick example or a use case is, let's say that you have two namespaces, HR and finance. And let's say that there is a user John Doe in the HR namespace, and there is another user John Doe in the finance use space. These are two different users. It's just that their names happen to be the same. So you want to make sure that when John Doe from HR is accessing the data, they are accessing data only for which is open and accessible to them. And when user John Doe from finance namespace is accessing, they can access data which is only open for them. Each of them should not be able to see each other's data. So hence, what we have done is, if you see the screen here, we have enabled row level security using namespaces where you can define the row level security using the entire user on, and the entire user on where you have John Doe as the user also is qualified using the namespace HR. Similarly, this John Doe is qualified by the namespace finance, and we are adding it to the column user on. The initial RLS that we launched was just for user ID, where we would have just had user ID, John Doe, and John Doe. But that would cause confusion because we don't know which John Doe is part of which namespace. Instead, we have enabled it where you can add a user on and the name is qualified by the right namespace. And what we are telling is that this particular John Doe who is in HR can access data only for region EMEA, for segment enterprise, SMB, and startup. And this John Doe who is in finance can access data only for US and for segment enterprise. And by this, we have enabled row level security for John Doe's based on the namespace that they are part of. This is the first type of RLS using namespaces that we have launched, along with RLS using user IDs, which was already available. We will also be launching very soon RLS using tags for anonymous embedding. So anonymous embedding is a use case where you don't have to go through any sort of authentication for the user, or you don't have to manage and provision users. If you're an ISV, if you have thousands of users, you just don't need to worry about provisioning and managing these users. You can use identity type anonymous in the get dashboard embed URL API and that embed that URL into your dashboard. And whoever can access your application can now access this dashboard. But we also want to make sure that you're able to secure your data based on who is accessing your application. And because we don't have a username concept, what we are doing is we are enabling setting of RLS using tags. A quick two-step process enables you to do this. The first step is setting RLS with tags on your dataset using the create dataset and update dataset API. And second is setting values to those tags at runtime using our new APIs. I'll walk you through both of them right now. So the first step is setting of RLS with tags on your dataset using create dataset and update dataset API. As you might be aware, we already have create dataset API and update dataset API. To that, we are adding a new parameter called row level permission tag configuration, which is highlighted in yellow. As you can see this, here you can define your tag key and the column name. Your column name matches your dataset's column name, and tag key can be anything. Here I'm assigning two tag keys, tag retailer ID and tag role. And tag retailer ID is for your column name retailer ID, and tag key is for your column name role. And I'm able to do that for a brand new dataset using create dataset, or I'm able to update an existing dataset using update dataset API. I also have two parameters called multi-value delimiter and match all value. You can use multi-value delimiter where you want to pass multiple values to the retailer ID column when you're actually setting values to these tags. Here I've defined that to be a comma delimiter. You can also define your own match all value where if you have for a retailer ID, let's say that you have hundreds of retailer IDs and you don't want to type each of them, you can use whatever you have defined in match all value to be your match all. In this case, it's asterisk for me. So using these two APIs, I have defined two tags. And now I will show you how to assign values to those tags. So using our new embed post API for anonymous embedding, you can define the values to those tags the way I have showed you here, which is highlighted in yellow. For the tag retailer ID, I'm passing values 11, 13, and 24. And you can see I'm using the comma limiter, comma as my delimiter. And for the tag role, I'm passing the value shift manager. This makes your anonymous embedding very powerful because using anonymous embedding, you're able to embed dashboards for thousands of your users. And at the same time, you're able to secure your data based on the properties of the user who is accessing your dashboard at runtime. So let's say that tomorrow this particular user's retail ownership grows. So all you need to do is just at runtime add extra retailer IDs to the values 11, 13, and 24, and they will be able to access that. You do not have to go ahead and change your rule sets, which you would have otherwise built ahead. You just need to update this at runtime. So hence, this actually makes your anonymous embedding very powerful. Now, what we are going to do is I'm going to hand it off to my partner, Arun, who will be able to walk you through a quick demo.
Thanks, Kareem. Hi, everyone. Nice to meet all of you virtually today. I'm Arun Santosh. I'm a solution architect specializing in Quicksite. Today, I'll be taking you through a demo which would cover the concepts of namespaces, using row-level security across namespaces, and also using row-level security with anonymous access through session tags, the main aspects that Kareem touched upon in his session. So let's first look at the demo setup. Let's say you're an ISV and you have n number of customers, of which we have taken 2 customers here for our demo. Within customer 1, I just have 2 users here. I have Annie, who is a power user, so she has author access. She can create content and she can publish new content for her readers. And as reader, I have Jerry. And for these 2 folks, the data access levels that set up is different. Annie has been set up with access to all of customer 1's data, and within segment, she also gets to see all segments within customer 1's data. Whereas Jerry has been given access to customer 1's data, but only for SMB segment. And we will see how this is configured as we look at the product. Before we go there, let's also look at customer 2's setup. So within customer 2's namespace, again, we have 2 users set up. David is set up as an power author who can create and publish content for the users within customer 2. And Victor is set up as a reader. And like we did with Jerry, Victor has been given access only to customer 2 and for SMB segment. Now, where this namespaces becomes important is that it gets you true user isolation. Your authors will get to share screens when they try to share assets with their reader population. So it's important to make sure that they see only the readers within their own organization. So Annie, when she is creating and publishing new content, should see only Jerry in this case. It shouldn't be able to see David and Victor. With namespaces, we are able to get that true user isolation, and we will see that in action during our demo. Like Kareem mentioned, there is also a use case for anonymous embedding with RLS. That's because if you have thousands of users and you're already managing those users and their data entitlements within your own application's identity store, you don't necessarily want to recreate all of that content into Quicksite. You don't necessarily want to recreate those users and data roles into Quicksite. So with anonymous access, RLS with tags, you're able to serve out content to such users at the right data entitlement level without having to create them into Quicksite. We will also see this in action. So for that purpose, we will look at these three users, Walter, James, and Jennifer. Walter has been set up with access to all of customer 2 across all segments. James with access to all of customer 2, SMB, and startup segment. And Jennifer, even though she is part of customer 2, we have decided not to give access to these dashboards. So we'll see that in action, how that works out. Now I'll flip over to the Quicksite screen and I will show you how the RLS across namespaces have been set up first. And then I'll come back at a later point and show you the anonymous RLS with tags. So I have the RLS rules brought in as a data set into Quicksite. I'll click here and go into edit data set. You can keep these rules any place you like from where we let you pull base data. Rules are treated pretty much like the base data by Quicksite. So in my case though, I have just uploaded a flat file with some rules and it has been pulled into our caching layer, what we call as spice. Here, like Karim mentioned, we are using the user ARNs now. So this is the version 2 of RLS, version 2 format. And in here, I have specified the rules that I talked about, giving Annie Smith access to all of customer 1's data. And then I have left the segment blank, meaning there is no restriction to be applied on segment. Show her all segments. Jerry, I have given access to customer 1's data and restricted him to SMB. Likewise for David and Victor. So now let's see this in action in an embedded application. So I have set up an embedded application here with all these users as part of a Cognito user pool. You don't necessarily need Cognito. It could be any identity store that you have at your end, wherein you have all these users. So first I will log in as Annie Smith. So let's see what her view looks like. And you can see that it's asking me to select a dashboard. And herein, if I click on the select dashboard, this top panel, it's part of the parent application here. Right? So it's, in my case, I've set it up as a drop-down with a listing of dashboards. Now that listing is dynamic. Here, I'm using our search dashboards API to go and retrieve the list of dashboards, which the admin has already shared with Annie. And there are 2 such dashboards. So if I click on any of these, then I'm using the get dashboard embed URL API to generate a dynamic URL for that dashboard. And I'm loading that into the bottom section here. And it's 2 simple visuals here. I have one which shows, make sure that she is seeing only customer 1's data. And the second visual shows that she is able to see data both for herself as well as Jerry. And since she has access to all 3 segments, she sees enterprise, SMB, and startup. Now, if I switch over to Embed Demo 2, it's essentially the same view, but I have just applied a different theme. So think of it as a different dashboard if you want to. The reason I'm showing you this is to call out our navigate to dashboard function. And with that, we are able to switch back between dashboards, back and forth between dashboards without having to generate a new URL. So I'm utilizing the original embed URL that was returned to me by the initial call to get dashboard embed URL API. And then navigate to dashboard lets me launch different dashboards that I am entitled to access. So that's pretty fast in how it works. Now, last year, we also launched the capability to embed sessions. Karim mentioned about this as well. So we'll look at the session view. Like I mentioned, Annie is a power user. So you have allowed Annie to create and publish content. So she can look at data sets which either the admin has shared with her, or she could even create her own data set if you choose to allow her to do that. So in this case, admin has shared this one data set with Annie. Let's use that to create a new analysis. So Annie can create new content and she gets the full analysis build interface, just like she would see from within the Quicksite console. So let's create a quick dashboard here. We will make sure that we have the salesperson there, and then we have segment added to the group color field well. And let's quickly change the chart type to be a stacked bar. I'll just make this visual slightly bigger, and then we will publish this out. And I can do all the things that I am allowed to do from within the console, including applying new themes. So let's make the colors pop as well. Now we can publish this new dashboard. Let's just call it test and publish. So we are presented with a shared dialog here, and Annie is allowed to share this dashboard with others within customer one, which in our case, we have set up Jerry as a reader. So let's search for Jerry. So we are able to see Jerry, select Jerry, and before we hit share, let's also make sure, I'm just flipping back to our demo setup. So we have these other users set up here, right? David and Victor. Let's just try searching for them and see if Annie is able to see them. So I'll search for David, and it says no results. I'll also search for Victor. It says no results. So that's user isolation in action. Namespace fully contained Annie and Jerry into customer one's namespace, and they are not having visibility into customer two's users. So let's share this with Jerry. Now let's log out from Annie's view, and we will come back in as Jerry, and we will see what Jerry's view looks like. So again, I'll look at the dashboard view, and when I click this list, I had mentioned that this is a dynamic list earlier. So this test dashboard is what we just now published from Annie's view and shared with Jerry, and that showed up in addition to the two dashboards which the admin had shared with Jerry earlier. And if you look at this view, you can see that Jerry is able to see customer one's data, able to see two reps therein, but based on the entitlements that we set up for Jerry, is seeing only SMB segment data. So that's looking good. Row-level security across namespaces is working correctly there. Now let's look at the session view. Here, Jerry is set up as a reader. So when we embed a session view for Jerry, the options that are available are just favorites, recent, and dashboards. And within dashboards, of course, you have the two views, tiled and list view, same as you would find within the Quicksite console. Now, this is beneficial even in context of a reader. Say if you do not care as much about the look and feel of how you embed it, but you want to quickly get analytics into hands of your users, you can embed our sessions even for your readers, and they will get a view like this, and then they will be able to consume the dashboards that you share with them. Now, let's log out of Jerry's view, and we will come back in as the power author in customer 2, that's David. So let's log in as David King here. And I'm using this convention, a C2-David King. You don't necessarily have to have that as part of the username. You could very well keep your customer name and other entitlements as part of custom attributes within your identity provider. This is just for ease of this demo that I have the namespace also as part of the username here. So just calling that out. So I'm logged in as David, And here, again, I see the two dashboards that the admin has shared with me. Let's look at the entitlements first. I log in, I launch that first dashboard. I see customer two's data, which is correct. And then I see 5 reps within customer two. And there are 3 segments. So based on the entitlements we provided for David, this is accurate. Now, let's look at the session view for David. We already saw in Annie's view how she could create new content. So David has same capabilities. We'll not get into that. Instead, let's just try getting into the share dialog for one of the existing dashboards. And we will just see if we can, if we are able to see users from customer one's namespace. So let's search for Annie here. Annie doesn't show up. And we'll search for Jerry. Jerry doesn't show up either. That's good. So if you see here, they are in different namespace, so they shouldn't show up, and that's working correctly. Now, we also talked about anonymous embedding, using anonymous embedding with RLS to serve out content to 3 other users within customer 2, Walter, James, and Jennifer. So let's just make sure that they are not set up under this namespace, right? So let's search for Walter. Walter doesn't show up. James doesn't exist there either. And Jennifer is not added either. So those users haven't been registered. The only other user who's registered here is Victor, as we saw in the initial setup slide. So now let's look at, we will log out of David's view. We'll come back in as Victor. We will just make sure his view is working fine as well in terms of RLS across namespaces. And then we will look at anonymous access. Okay, so coming in as Victor, we'll just launch embed demo 1. We are seeing customer 2's data across 5 reps only for SMB. This matches the entitlements we gave for Victor. So that's looking good. Let's log out of here. Now, before I go into showing you the anonymous embed part of the demo, let's first look at how that's configured. Right? Karim touched upon this earlier, but let's look at this a little bit closer in context of this particular demo setup. So the data set that we are having, against which these dashboards are built, it has got the original permission data set that we looked at earlier, that's applied. On top of it, we have also applied this part where it says row level permission tag configuration. And I have 2 tags configured here. The first tag, I'm calling it my customer tag, and I am associating that with customer name column in my base data set. And if I want to pass multiple values, I'm using hyphen as a delimiter between those values. And my match all value is star. If I want to allow access to all categories within that column, I have to specify star. Likewise, I have one more tag for my segment, which I'm calling as my segment tag here. And the column name is segment. And same values for the multi-value delimiter as well as match all value as my first tag. Now with this kind of a construct added, I update the data set with this, and that takes care of setting this on the data set. Now when I'm generating the anonymous URL, I have to pass in the correct session tags and values to ensure that I am applying the correct RLS rules. So we will also look at the code for that here. So this is the backend Lambda function which I am using. And in here, I'm coming in and getting my dashboard embed URL, session embed URL for my named users. And if users are not present, then I'm coming on to this exception section. And from there, if I just wanted to do anonymous embedding without without RLS, I could use the get dashboard embed URL, identity type anonymous, and go from there. But to use session tags, I have to now use generate embed URL for anonymous user. This is the API call we need to make. It takes the account ID, and we can pass in the authorized resource ARNs, the list of dashboards that we want to allow, the same as we talked about at the beginning of the demo, authorizing and multiple dashboards, and then being able to use the select dashboard drop down to flip back and forth without having to generate a new URL. So we are authorizing multiple dashboards here. We can specify which namespace to generate this against. This will come in handy when you're looking at your sessions and charging back your customers based on usage. So we want to make sure that all the usage from customer 2's anonymous users gets billed for customer 2, right? So that's why we are passing namespace. Experience configuration lets us specify which dashboard to load this URL with initially. So we are specifying that, and how many minutes the session has to be active. And we have this section, session tags. This is what drives what RLS rules to apply. If you see here, based on the user as identified by the application login, I'm specifying different session tags. So if Walter logs in, I'm saying show Walter all of customer 2's data, and I'm putting that against customer tag. That's how Quicksite will know that this is a filter that needs to be applied against my customer name column. And with a segment tag, I'm passing my match all value of star, meaning Walter should see all 3 segments. For James, I'm saying show data for customer 2, but segment tag I'm passing in as SMB-startup. If you remember, hyphen was my delimiter, multi-value delimiter. So what this means is James should be allowed to see customer 2 data for SMB and startup segments, and enterprise will be excluded. And for anybody else, any other users who might be in the application identity pool, they are not to be given any access. So when we come in with Jennifer, it will come into this section of the code, and the tags will be passed a non-existent value, and it should come back with no data, right? So now that we looked at how this is applied to the data set and how we are passing these values while making the API call, let's see it in action. So let's log in as Walter first. And we will make a selection on the dashboard. You can see, like we set up, Walter is getting access to customer 2, all reps, and all 3 segments. Cross-checking against our initial setup, this is matching what we set out to accomplish. Now let's come in quickly as James and Jennifer as well. So logging in as James. We should see data for customer 2, but only for 2 segments, right? SMB and startup. So that's working just as we set it up. Now we will also look at Jennifer's view. And go load the dashboard. And just as expected, Jennifer doesn't have any entitlement to see this data. So we are saying that there is no data found. So that's how row-level security works across namespaces and with anonymous access with session tags. Now for the anonymous access part, you will need to be enrolled to session capacity pricing because there is no users involved, and this is all running based on sessions. That concludes my demo. I'll pass this back to Kareem.
Thank you, Arun. That was a very cool demo. So now, to wrap up this presentation, I have a bunch of links here for you, which helps you go through the items that we spoke about. One of the callouts that I have here is that RLS using tags for anonymous embedding will be coming out by the month of June this year. But apart from that, everything is live and public. So you should be able to use any of these functionalities for your embedded use cases. And that is the presentation from Arun and myself, and hope you had a very cool day and a very nice embedding experience. Thank you.